Ahead, but we begin with this story. A close relative has been arrested in connection with the murder of veteran KwaZulu-Natal Metro Police Officer Zwelakhe Ntombela. This follows the sentencing of the hitman to 20 years in jail. Ntombela was shot at his home in Umlazi back in May. He was assigned to the security detail of eThekwini City Manager Musa Mbhele. ENCA senior reporter Dasen Thathiah following this developing story for us, and he's joining us now for the latest just to get an update for him. Dasen, good afternoon. Welcome to today. What a story. This is a major development, one would imagine, in this particular case of the murder of the veteran KZN Metro Police Officer Zwelakhe Ntombela. How did investigators get here?
Praten, that's right, and especially after the trial that we saw and the conviction of that hitman, Zwelakhe Ntombela, one would expect that the pace would have slowed down somewhat, or as is expected, because that would have been the trigger man, that would have been the person who actually took Captain Ntombela's life. But despite that, Hawks investigators and the others that they were working with were still trying to put together all of the pieces. Now, Ntombela himself, that's the accused, had implicated others in this plot to assassinate Captain Ntombela. And I think I should also clarify at this point that the two are actually not related, but share a similar surname. And if you look at the chain of events and which eventually led to that guilty plea by Ntombela, it really is a sad and intriguing tale, because Ntombela himself, the accused, was enlisted by someone else, and he was then asked to meet with a middle-aged woman at the time, who was then one of those that was close to the person who was to be assassinated. But besides that, he was also equipped with everything that he needed to do this job. He was given a car, he was given a police uniform, he was given money for expenses, and he was given a firearm as well. And all of those things were supposed to be the tools that he would use to, in fact, assassinate Captain Ntombela. He was even shown which parts of the road he could be standing at, or how he could access Ntombela when he arrived home back to Umlazi. So these were some of the details that had come out in court. This was also some of the information that he had shared as part of his guilty plea and then his confession to the crime. But what was clear then was that he wasn't the only one, and that there were others that were involved. And now we see this weekend the arrest of a female relative that was taken in by the Hawks on Sunday. She's yet to appear in court, and we had an opportunity to speak to the Hawks earlier today. Let's listen to what Lieutenant Colonel Mpiwe Mhlongo had to say to us.
When we are talking about an intensive investigation by the Hawks members from serious organized crime, this is what we are talking about, because emanating from the arrest of the first accused in July, the investigation guided the Hawks to these relatives. She became a person of interest. We didn't arrest her so quick. We dig deep, put together all the evidence that will be crucial for us to present a well-investigated docket before court, so that we can arrest her after we have done our investigation.
I mean, in such cases, one always wonders, Dasen, what could be the motive have been?
And I think more so when you look at the possible suspects being relatives or friends or people that are close to the victim in these cases. And almost always it's financial gain. And that seems to be a common thread. I mean, police officers have said to us that there are so many cases that they've dealt with where, as sick as it sounds, the money that would potentially be paid out from the death of someone is then used to pay a hitman that would be hired to kill them. And sometimes they would then accept that payment only after that insurance payout actually happens. Now, in this particular case, it's believed that there was a reward, a payment of about 150,000 rand that was promised to carry out this killing. And it would seem that once again there were one of the possible motives could have been that of financial gain. We also asked the Hawks about this. This is what they had to say to us.
As much as we cannot preempt what was the motive, but in most cases you find that is the financial gain and the assets of the deceased after the death of the deceased, because when you see the closer relative that has been arrested, she was going to benefit out of this. And we can safely say that at some point you find that the motive is greed.
Dasen, what's next in this case? What do we expect now to happen? The relative has been arrested and the suspect was convicted to 20 years in jail. He's now behind bars.
Well, the case is certainly not over, or the investigation at least, because while Nkosi Ntombela will continue to remain in prison and to serve his sentence, we now have the development of that relative, which is expected to appear in court tomorrow. So that will be her first appearance, and that will really only be the start of her case and the charges that she faces. But beyond that, there's also the expectation of others that are going to be arrested in relation to this matter. And I think it really paints a picture of how complex this plot was, this plot to assassinate Captain Zwelakhe Ntombela.
Thank you very much, Dasen Thathiah. What a story. Thanks for that update.